New mics. Good evening. Welcome to a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills. Please be advised that this and all meetings of the board are open to the public and media, consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, and an advance notice therein has been provided. This is a meeting of the Board of Education of Somerset Hills at which formal action may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. I would like to introduce John Crute, who is here to replace Darlise, who is on vacation this week from our legal firm. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Cooper. Here. Mr. DiGiacchino.
Here.
Mr. Nail.
Here.
Mr. McDonald.
Here.
Mrs. Santoro. Here. Mrs. Tover.
Here.
Ms. Virtue.
Here.
Ms. Birch.
Here.
Mrs. Lees.
Here.
Okay, under correspondence this evening, we have one letter from Pam Mayer.
Report of the superintendent.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to report that the QSAT compliance monitoring is officially behind us. Our results have been reported by the county office to the state of New Jersey. The scores that the district received ranged from an 85% in personnel, 89% in instruction and program, 91% in operations, 95% in governance, and 100% in fiscal management. These results indicate that, once again, the district has been deemed a high-performing district. There are two other quick things I want to mention before we move on. At the last meeting, we heard from a number of theater students and their parents about the wonderful experiences they've had working with the director who recently retired, who they affectionately called Mr. T. I will confess I don't really know what his full last name is. He and I did have a wonderful conversation after the last meeting, and he shared some helpful ideas with me about how he thought we could best find his replacement. So I want to put the theater community's mind at ease, for Dr. Nigel is committed to this effort with the goal of finding someone just as terrific as Mr. T. Another topic that was discussed last time was field usage. Since that meeting, board representatives, the business administrator, and I have met with the mayor, facilities manager Doug Walker, and representatives from the Borough Council to discuss all aspects of sports fields in the borough. We certainly recognize the symbiotic relationship between the school and the borough, and we look forward to continuing this conversation. And now, without further ado, Marley Beers, are you ready? All right.
Hello everyone, my name is Marley Beers, and as the Assistant Secretary of BMS, I am here to represent the middle school. Spring sports have bloomed into BMS schedule. Baseball, softball, and track ball had the first games and meets. They also had many practices. I play on the softball team, so I know that we are 1-1, 1 win and 1 loss, and the baseball team is off to a good start. When morning announcements happen the day after the track meet, the news is very exciting, landing first place for our school. Even though I do not do the 5th and 6th grade play, Cinderella Kids, I do know that the show is next Friday and Saturday. There are many practices after school, and much hard work is being put into the show. The students in the production take a much bigger role in the play than the audience can see. There are students who work on the lights and the technology. The actors and actresses in the play dedicate so much of their time as to the crew. Come out and see our show. May is a very big month for many of us students at BMS. Many field trips are coming up. On May 17th, the Dorney Park trip for all of the orchestra, band, and select chorus is happening. We perform, get scored, and then go to the Dorney Park for the rest of the day. On May 20th, the 6th grade field trip is going to the Cannon Aquarium. Upcoming trips are 5th grade is going to the Intrepid Battleship in New York City, 7th grade is going to the Franklin Institute in Pennsylvania, and 8th grade has a big trip coming up to Carmines Cheryl, and David and Dusters. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Molly, you did a great job. Kendall, are you here? I see you.
It's hard. Hi, I'm Kendall Gilmar, the VHS student representative from the Board of Education. So in late March, the Bernardian, which was our yearbook, was featured in Jostens Lookbook, which basically highlights the best and most creative yearbook designs in all of the United States. So it's a real honor to have our yearbook highlighted. This month, the students also saw the NJSLA. I know that was definitely a nice break for juniors and seniors who had really been grinding and putting in a lot of work to the last couple of semesters. And then we had spring break, which was another great break. I know a lot of students had to stay here for athletics and lacrosse especially, but I know a lot of students also traveled away, and I know a couple of students were actually in Europe and got to see Paris when the Notre Dame Cathedral was on fire. And I think it's just crazy how some students, it really connects and it all comes back to Woodridge High School, which is awesome for them when they got to go, but not as awesome for her. So most recently was Earth Day. And the newspaper had a feature article about ways to conserve, and it featured different student opinions on the way Bernard's High School can conserve a little bit more. So that's in our newspaper. Green Team this week is selling succulents during lunch periods, which is another cute fundraiser that they thought of. And I actually overheard a couple of students kind of reminiscing on middle school and elementary school Earth Day activities, and they felt that the high school didn't really have the same type of enthusiasm and just designated and scheduled events as they had in military and not military, middle. Middle and elementary school. And I just think that because high schoolers are approaching adulthood, I think conservation and the environment is a discussion that needs to be had now more than ever. So I don't know how those different programs can be put in place, but that's just an idea. Looking ahead.
Principal is listening.
Looking ahead, the intergenerational prom is coming up, and the NHS induction ceremony is next week. So it's an awesome way to highlight and commend students in the National Honor Society. Battle of the Bands is on Friday. That's an event put on by the Green Team and for the environment. And the Crimson Cafe is coming up on Saturday, and I know the band students are really looking forward to putting on a big show. And although students did get a big break for spring break and the NJSLA, AP testing does start on May 6th. So right now is kind of the time period when everyone's crunching down for AP classes and putting in a lot of hard work. So if you see someone, root them on. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kendall. Tonight we have our principals here to honor and present our educators of the year. I don't know, I think we always start with Amy, so we may as well. Sue Crowley, you can't have
to speak about Bedwell's Teacher of the Year, Sue Crowley. Sue Crowley is our library and media specialist. She's been teaching at Bedwell since 2001. Sue is a dedicated, inspiring educator who is respected and well-loved by students, parents, and staff members. Her love of reading is so apparent, and her teaching is engaging and well-designed. As a result, her students are the beneficiaries of her passion for books of all kinds. Her library community is filled with warmth and caring, and these attributes are the foundation of her work with children. The impact that Sue leaves on everyone she encounters each and every day is undeniably positive. When asked for her thoughts on her job, this is what Sue said. I am so fortunate to work in the best room in our school. I'm passionate about what I do because I get to share books with children. My days are filled with awesome books written by gifted authors and illustrated by talented artists. Books that touch children's hearts, make their faces sparkle with laughter, or make their brows furrow with questions. My world is about books, that teach children about people who've impacted our world, and books that are filled with facts and information and history, animals, or holiday celebrations. My students learn how to research, how to access information, how to use the physical space. The books in our library allow me to bond with the children as we share the reading experience. I love when I'm asked, can I have that book next? Or during a read aloud, I so enjoy hearing the gasp when the unexpected happens. I smile when a kindergartner says, I can keep it for a whole week. I love to see their eyes light up as they are searching on the computer and find just what they wanted. It is the children who give the library life and let me work in the best room in the school. Congratulations to Sue Crowley.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Lisa, who won? You or Scott for next?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It is with great pleasure tonight that I'm here to speak about Mary Ann Fitzgerald. Mary Ann has been a teacher in the Somerset Hills School for 12 years, spending all 12 of those years at the Bernardsville Middle School as a classroom teacher of both math and science. Mrs. Fitzgerald is caring, compassionate, committed, and above all, a consummate professional. The choice of Mary Ann Fitzgerald as Teacher of the Year at Bernardsville Middle School is celebrated by our entire school community. Mrs. Fitzgerald was nominated by her students. Her students describe her as patient and extremely kind and helpful. One of her students said, normally, I don't like science, but I love it now. Her students believe that she deserves tremendous credit for all that she does. Mrs. Fitzgerald shares her teaching philosophy with both her students at the start of the school year, as well as her parents on back-to-school night. Mrs. Fitzgerald states, my personal beliefs about teaching center around respect and responsibility. Communication is key. I firmly believe in setting clear expectations and holding students accountable for those expectations. However, recognizing that these are middle school students, providing support and guidance is necessary in helping these students achieve their goals. Modeling being fair and consistent in the classroom is done daily, and I also believe sets the example that students carry through into citizenship in the school community. Thank you, Mary Ann, and congratulations.
I am lucky enough to present the Bernards High School Teacher of the Year Award to Jade Petrolongo. Ms. Petrolongo has taught social studies at Bernards High School for 9 years. She has taught all levels of world history as well as electives such as comparative world religions. Throughout all of her different courses, students do the work of a historian, and in her electives, students tackle modern issues. For the benefit of students enrolled in our comparative world religions course, Ms. Petrolongo has created partnerships with countless religious institutions in our area, and the course takes trips to amazing sites. Every year, comparative world religions enrollment increases because the students see the expertise and excitement Ms. Petrolongo brings to the course and find the content helps them expand their view of the world. Ms. Petrolongo's philosophy on teaching and learning is so impressive, and I think it speaks to why she's our Teacher of the Year. This is what she said. In our increasingly interconnected and diverse world, it is through education that we will best prepare students for the issues of 21st century citizenship. The 21st century holds great hope. Educating students of the importance of diversity and the need to accept one another's differences is vital to fulfilling such hope. More conversations about diversity are taking place now than ever before, and we have made great strides in acknowledging and celebrating various identities. The focus of these discussions should continue to be on the value of what everyone's contributions to society can be, and the need for all of us to embrace and respect one another's differences. Such discussions will reduce prejudices, strengthen cultural competence, and provide students with a deeper sense of themselves, thereby adding to the value of their roles as global citizens. I think I'm going to have to start writing my speech. So congratulations to Jade and thank you for all your work.
congratulations to all our winners. We couldn't be prouder. You guys do a great job every single day. Thanks so much. That concludes reports.
Public questions and comments. We very much welcome input from the public. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. For this section, please state your name and address and on which agenda item you will be speaking about. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public questions and comments will be limited to 30 minutes. Thank you for your input. Are there any public comments on actionable agenda items?
Good evening. Lou Palmer, Gladstone. I'm here on personnel and policy number 1 and 2. Jennifer Schoffer's resignation. I've been associated with the district when Jen first came in. Got to know her during the strategic planning, worked closely with her. So I just wanted to wish her well and thank her for working with me and helping me with the strategic plan. So I appreciate that. Good luck in her endeavors. Next endeavor. If you don't know Victor, he's been here 21 years, having 3 boys, go through sports, 3 seasons of sports, and having a lot of fundraisers and things going on with sports and everything else. Victor was always there, always supportive, always helpful, always whatever you needed. He didn't ask any questions, he just did it. And I know we're going to miss him here in the district. I'm sure you know what an asset he was to the district. So I just wanted to thank him publicly for myself of all the things he did for me and wish him well in his retirement. I do have another question on one of the agenda items. On the new policy for the field use, we came up with some numbers for using Alcott Field, and I was just wondering how you determine those numbers and why you have a fee associated with the Group B organizations paying for field use. So that was my only question on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Angus Miller. I'm from Bedminster. This may or may not fall under this, under Section 8, Policy Action Items, Use of School Facilities. I've been asked to come and speak to the board regarding the Bernards High School new bathroom closure policy. A number of the senior students are very upset with the current policy. So I don't know if that's okay to speak about that now.
That is not an item that we're taking action on tonight, but we would love to hear your comments if you wouldn't mind doing that in supplemental matters.
There'll be a second comment section a little bit later in the meeting, and then you'll be welcome to make your speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lynn Weltler, president of the Somerset Hills Education Association. I actually have a question for the board. Has there been a change to policy number 0167, public participation in board meetings, that was last edited on December 2018? I do have some people that, can we give members of the board a copy of their policy, please? Because, and the reason I'm asking this is in regards to the comments that were just made about people speaking on only actionable items in the first section. And there is nothing stated in the public participation in board meetings about that has to be limited to the second public comments. So I can read to you if you would like. The Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the board shall set aside a portion of every board meeting, the length of the portion to be determined by the board, which you did, 30 minutes, for a public comment on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district. As I look further, there actually is no comment made about being on actionable items. We do have members of our community here that have concerns that they do want to voice. And based on this public policy, I would hope that the board would allow me to speak during the first business of visitors comments, public comments. Thank you.
My name is Jim Karen. I am head negotiator, vice president for the association, and as Lynn played good cop, I'm not going to play good cop with the Board of Education right now, because this is the third meeting in a row that I stood up here and addressed the Board of Education on your policies. You are in violation of your policies. Tonight, correspondence, you added that whole section down there that states that you need to address these. As Lynn already stated, there's nowhere in your policies that states that. Last month, I addressed this Board of Education because you changed the agenda last month, and you put, on the end, you changed the business of visitors with the supplemental matter at the end. The month before, I addressed this Board of Education because you put correspondence at the end. You have two policies, not only the one that Lynn just addressed, and I'm going to talk about District Policy 0164, which states right here, which I have a copy of, which is no longer, by the way, on the Board of Education, so I don't know where it's gone in the last month. No longer on the Board of Education website, that states the agenda, the order that the business is supposed to be followed. This is 3 months in a row that I've stood up in front of this Board of Education and spoke to you about following your own agendas and your own protocol. You are not doing it. You need to follow this. The reason you don't want to do this is because you don't want to hear from these people out here. You want to put us to the end. That's my feeling. That's their feeling. These people out here are here for a reason. You don't want to hear about correspondence. You don't want to hear from my members. And that's why you're playing the games that you are, Board of Education, with the policies. Can you give me another reason why they are not following your own board protocols? Thank you.
Anyone else from the public on actionable agenda items? Okay, we'll close that public comment. Oh, excuse me.
Hi, my name is Melissa Leonard, and I'm a teacher at Bedwell and a resident of Bernardsville, 60 Liberty Road. As a taxpayer, I think I'm also addressing the budget item on the agenda. This is my 16th year at Bedwell, and I have taught kindergarten, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and I'm currently the K-4 enrichment teacher. I'm here to talk to you about giving our teachers the fair and appropriate contract that they deserve. But I'd like to start with a bit of background about what drew me to this school district. Back in 2002, on the campus of TC&J, I went to my very first teaching career fair.
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm sorry, you had indicated in the meeting we were talking about budget items. If you have any other statements, we'd be happy to hear from them, but they should be in the second public comment section.
Show us where in the board policy she's breaking the board policy.
Well, please, sir, you've had your 3 minutes. It's not your turn.
As it relates to the budget, as a taxpayer of this town,
If you have there's a budget item on the agenda, so if you'd like to address the budget, you're welcome to do so at this time.
Teacher salary within the budget.
So if that's a budget item that's on the agenda, you can address that.
My turn.
It's on that pie chart.
If it's budget related,
So, back in 2002, on the campus of TCMJ, I went to my very first teaching career fair and had my very first interview ever set up with a man named Mr. Glenn Lampa. And I happily told my friends I was interviewing for a teaching position in Bernardsville, which somebody thankfully corrected me to Bernardsville prior to my interview. From that very first interview to the days I walked through the doors of Bedwell as a third grade teacher, I could tell this district was unique. The teachers, paraprofessional staff, custodians, each person held a strong passion and dedication to their profession and the students, and it was unlike any other district I've seen. That unique dedication and the time and energy that our staff gives to their students is what I'd like to talk to you about today. At Bedwell School, our contractual day is 7 hours and 16 minutes. This is the contracted time that we are supposed to teach, write lesson plans, and prepare our lesson materials. This is the time that we work to fulfill the district's mission statement, which is to provide an authentic and balanced learning experience for each student by harnessing the power of innovation and an engaged community to create thoughtful and impactful global citizens. Well, I can tell you that every teacher here works with unbridled enthusiasm to engage our students in high-level learning and to create those innovative learning experiences from kindergarten through 12th grade that eventually turn our students into impactful global citizens. But that type of teaching and those types of learning experiences are created by teachers who are constantly working above and beyond their contract time. Each and every day, our teachers come in before the start of their contract time and stay late past their contract time. Our teachers have students come in for special lunches and projects during their prep time. Our teachers conduct community service projects after school, take students to learning competitions, and go to professional development on their weekends. They hold students to science, technology, and art shows. Our teachers create opportunities for their students to celebrate their work with parents through Proud Days, Golden Guest Day, writing celebrations, student performances. They come in during the summer to unpack their boxes and set up a classroom that promotes a positive learning atmosphere. They stay up late at night to come up with the most innovative way to teach a lesson.
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, I paused the clock, but you have about 30 seconds to go.
All of these things cannot be done during our 7-hour, 16-minute contract time. All of these things we do not get paid extra for. All of these things are done because we love our students and are dedicated to our profession. In return, we ask to feel valued and appreciated through a fair and appropriate contract. The creation of these experiences, the time it takes to put together a celebration of student work, are not experiences we can create during our contract time. We started out with talking about what drew me to this district 17 years ago as a 22-year-old out of college. I want to end with the fact that I eventually moved here. Now I have a daughter entering Bedwell's kindergarten in the fall and a son who will continue 2 years later. I have friends who I've told to move to this district because of the dedicated staff and teachers who every day go above and beyond their contract. This district has now become home to me in many ways, and the staff and students have become family. I ask you to give this family of teachers, secretaries, custodians, and other valuable district a fair and appropriate contract. They deserve it, and so do our students.
Any other public comments? Okay, we will now close the public comments, the first public comment section.
Thank you. A question was raised about the two public comment sections. And I just want to explain a little bit about the background of the Open Public Meetings Act and the law and what public comment means and why the board has two public comment sections. There seems to be some confusion about that. And I believe it's something that they've had in the past, and many boards do. Until relatively recently, about 10 or 15 years ago, there actually was no legal requirement that boards even have a public comment section. Many boards did anyway, but it wasn't legally required. Then about 10 or 15 years ago, the Open Public Meetings Act was amended to require that public entities, both not only school districts, but also municipal bodies as well and other public entities, should set aside a certain portion of the meeting for public comment. Someone quoted board policy, which actually is quoting the law, that how that public comment session works, the length of it, and how it's set up is up to the Board of Education. to determine, but the law does say that there needs to be a public comment section. Some boards, many boards I would say, some boards limit it to just one public comment section, which they could have at the end of the meeting. And they might set a time limit for it, they set time limits for the particular speeches, and it's perfectly allowable under the law. There's nothing that says there has to be a public comment session at a certain point in the meeting, or that there needs to be one or two public comment sessions. So some boards elect to have just one public comment session. But what many boards do, and what Somerset Hills Board of Education does, is that they do provide for 2 public comment sessions. And the reason for that is that it gives the public an opportunity to be heard prior to the board taking action on agenda items with respect to those agenda items. And that's the purpose of having this 2 separate public comment sections, and having the first public comment section be limited to agenda items only. And again, the reason for that is so that the public gets to comment on things on the agenda. That's important for a couple of reasons. One, it's important to give the public an opportunity to be heard on the agenda items before the board takes action on them. And it's also important for the welfare of the board in terms of running an efficient meeting and running a meeting that makes sure that the board gets through its agenda items and do the business that it has to do that evening, so that the meeting can run efficiently and not get bogged down with other issues that aren't on the agenda that night. However, having said that, it's important to understand, and there seems to be some confusion, that the board in no way is saying that people can't speak about other issues that they'd like to speak about. It's simply practice, and it's a good practice that's followed in many districts in the state, that the first session is on the agenda item so that the agenda can move forward and people can be heard on the agenda. But it's in the second session where the members of the public get to comment on any issue that they'd like related to the schools. And so that's the practice, and I believe that's been the practice. And actually, if you look at the board policy that was quoted earlier, it doesn't even say anything about having 2 public comment sessions. It simply says that there will be an opportunity for public comment, and it'll be up to the board. So that's what's happening tonight. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that I hope they will stay. I'm sure the board hopes that everyone will stay, and then have their opportunity to say what they need to say in the second public comment session.
We need a motion to approve the minutes. Second. Any discussion? All right, if not, roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mr. Mayo?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees?
Yes.
Bob? Finance and Facilities?
And the Finance Committee met last Wednesday for about 4 hours. I'll go over the items that we discussed fairly quickly. We discussed the Burnsville Center access. We talked to our land use. We talked to our land use attorney about what our options were. We were very concerned about students climbing the fence and also climbing the guardrail and going down a steep slope. We're worried about student safety, so we're looking at various options there, and we'll continue to talk about that next month. We talked about the referendum surplus when we built its media center and fixed the bathrooms at Bedwell and fixed the high school parking lot. Right now, there's about $500,000 left, and we have to return that to the taxpayers. So we're going to put that probably in the 2020-21 school budget. The exact number could vary by we have a couple projects that we're finishing up, like the handicap ramp on the field where the bleachers are. So we'll follow up that probably next fall when we start talking about it's the budget. We also reviewed the expenditure process that the school uses, and Heather and Gretchen explained how they approve spending, and the committee was comfortable with the current controls and how that's handled. We talked about transportation. You'll see on tonight's agenda there's a motion for us to go to bid on school busing. we've been using the education services of New Jersey, and as the person in the middle, and we use other buses, we use 3 different bus companies, and it's created a lot of problems. Things haven't worked well sometimes, so we're going to go to bid ourselves and see what kind of response we get and whether we can work a better deal. We reviewed the facilities and field policy. We made a few slight changes to what the policy committee had suggested, and I'll leave that to Heather when she gets to hers, because mine is long enough. She gets something else to talk about. We reviewed the new form for disposal and sale of property. We felt that that was a good idea to have, and there are, on item 13 tonight, we are disposing of some old technology equipment. We talked about the Bedminster service no agreement that's been negotiated in an ad hoc committee. We had a lot of suggestions on word changes. The committee couldn't agree on every one of those, so the contract will have to go back to the ad hoc committee to try to flesh out some of the sticky points there, okay? Another item was, as far as the budget goes, Heather calculated the tax rate on a spreadsheet for each town. I know Jake will be interested in that spreadsheet because he needs to report that in the town paper. It shows each town will pay a different percentage on average of what the budget is that we approved this evening, and it's based on 95% student enrollment and 5% based on housing evaluation, how it's assessed. Okay. We also we talked about the middle school generator bids, and we're going to be approving that contractor this evening. And the last item we talked about was we wanted to explain simply what the money left over from 2017-18 is. So I will try to explain this as simply as possible. These $6.8 million that was the end of the year balance reported in the recent audit for the 2017-18 school year is 87% encumbered. Various amounts are designated for this year's school budget, next year's school budget, the capital reserve account, the maintenance reserve account. This leaves $796,211, or about 2% of next year's general budget. Since the school board cannot raise additional funds if expenses exceed the revenue, it is prudent to maintain a surplus. This surplus can be used if there are unexpected expenditures or variations in revenue. Things like we had to spend a lot of money last year on mold remediation. We don't always get the revenue that we are thinking from various other streams. And so the only revenue we're sure about is the tax revenue. All the other revenue that's in there we're not sure about. So that explains what that extra money is for. So I would like to open the public hearing for the adoption of the budget for 2019-2020. If anybody has any specific questions on the budget, they're more than welcome to come up.
So we did the presentation last month, and the board members tonight, you were all given the most recent summary information sheet, the estimated tax rate that Bob was referring to, and then a copy of the public hearing that was done last month, and will be posted tomorrow on the website once the board approves the budget, along with the user-friendly budget. So is there any discussion at this time from the board?
Specific to the budget, right?
Specific to the budget, yes. Okay?
Yeah, I know we we've worked very hard on the budget. I still am frustrated. We'll be voting in favor. I would like to see us continue to move towards equity regarding Title IX in the boys and girls sports at Bernards High School. That's not being done. There is an imbalance. I've talked about it, and I've talked about it, and it's ignored. And I would like to see us move towards that before it ends up costing us more money than adding
Greg, Jen,
additional girls
just
sports.
say one thing. So, you remember I did a presentation about the comprehensive equity report, the needs assessment. So that is part of our plan for our needs assessment. And, submitted, with the board approving the plan next month.
Thank you.
I've just got a procedural question. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. Are we opening this up to public comment right now?
After the board discussion.
So there's a board discussion on the budget only, and then we're opening up so we can actually have a third public comment, period, in this board
The
meeting.
budget, yes.
That's fine, I just think it's important that we communicate to both to the board and then to the public.
If the board is finished with discussion, then this is an opportunity for the public to comment on the budget.
Hello, sorry, I just came from a game I was coaching, so excuse my address. My name is Meredith Pooler. I'm a Bernardsville resident. I live on 20 Sunnybrook Road. A few of us are concerned, questioning, how are we voting on a budget if the teachers don't have a contract? What are the numbers used for that, for their salaries? I get that, I don't know how this works, so maybe I just comment and I sit and I don't get any question and answer. Sorry.
Our business administrator can certainly talk to you about the.
I can't give a whole lot of specifics because we are in negotiations. As I stated in the presentation last month, there's a significant portion of the budget is for salaries and benefits.
Okay. So my question or comment is, I'm not sure how you can vote on a budget if you don't have that negotiated. And that these teachers are amazing teachers and they absolutely deserve some kind of, benefit. I'm a teacher myself in Jersey City, so I know what it is to have all these health benefits coming out and, the retirement going up, but maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't, but now you have to pay health care. So it's definitely really frustrating to see that even in our own town, that these people that give their lives to our children, weekends in Newark, in the NJIT with our children, they definitely deserve a little more respect, and especially Miss Leonard got this evening. So I just want to say.
Any other comments on the budget? All right, if not, we will close this portion of the hearing. Bob, would you like to move the
I'd
action
like to
items?
move action items 1 through 13, which are all finance, and then I will do facilities. Have a second.
Thank you.
They're on the agenda. in the back. So item 12 is is the VOTEC bus route, and number 13 is disposal of old electronic equipment. And item 1 is the budget.
Question, correct, yes. When we sell old equipment,
What's the procedure? Is that a bid process? Do we have people in the community come and bid on these items, or just we put a price on it and someone wants it for that price, they buy it?
So in this instance, these are very outdated, obsolete equipment that is going to
I
be.
understand that, I'm just saying, is there a bid process or is it?
There are opportunities if the equipment is deemed good enough for someone to use.
Can we bid on it? Or
Yes, yes. It would be advertised as like buses, like yes.
I mean,
Trucks. We're gonna have a truck that we're gonna dispose of at the end of the year. That would be advertised as something that.
when does it become just, we put a price on something and then anyone can buy it?
When it's really that obsolete. There's an advertisement that I sent to the New Jersey Asphalt Association regarding, did my due diligence in terms of putting it out there, that this is truly equipment that is obsolete.
I'm sorry, did you move facility and operation items yet, or no? What's finance, okay.
Just the finance.
Okay.
All right, roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Dale?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees? Yes.
All right, so I'd like to move action item under facilities 1 through 4 and 5, which are, it's a generator. We voted on the transportation bid proposal and our meeting dates for all of next year's school year. Do you want to have a second? Any questions or comments from the board?
When is
So I'm
the,
having a hard time here. What did
I'm
you
sorry.
move, Bob?
What?
What did you just move? What action items?
I move items 1 through 5.
On facilities and
On
operations.
facilities.
Thank you.
There's several on addendums. The problem is they're on addendums, so what they're,
Got it.
okay?
what's the anticipated schedule for the generators? When do we expect them to project to be completed? I know it hasn't.
It should be completed by the end of the summer. Well, also, the construction will begin as soon as school is out.
The conclusion of the school year.
Correct.
I have a question on the student transportation activities. We had talked a bit about looking into providing the option of a bus for PG residents in high school. Is that, have you given that consideration in the routes?
So, we were planning on for next year and
For the year after?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. May?
Yes.
Murphy? Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober? Yes. Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees? Yes.
Curriculum committee met on April 9th. Guys, can you bring that closer? Sure. Is that better? Much. Okay, thank you. So the curriculum committee met on April 9th. My copy attended our meeting and gave the committee an overview of how the annual sports budget is formulated. We tried to come to an understanding as to what extent fundraising provides items which are necessary to run the sports programs. We were told that Mike relegates a specific dollar amount to each sport and that an individual coach spends it accordingly.
If there is money left unspent in a particular sport, Mike can have it transferred to another sport. The committee wanted to get a sense of how the money is being spent to see if the current budget is sufficient, keeping in mind needs versus wants. Mike also told us that there is a parent liaison in charge of Booster Club funds. Booster Club fundraising occurs when the parent group would like to provide extras to teams. In addition, the committee thought there was a need to provide a written budget for each sport. We then turned our attention to Jen Schaffler, who explained that many schools are turning to computer-based benchmark assessments. The goal of these benchmark assessments is to identify students' academic strengths and weaknesses, and to use that information to guide future instruction and design lessons. Jen did extensive research into the assessments that are most commonly used and recommended by similar school districts. Our K-8 teachers feel comfortable with TC benchmark assessments currently used in language arts, although the feeling was that more could be done to analyze the results to form instruction. These assessments might be valuable in math. Jen presented the committee with the pros and cons of several companies. 3 companies were chosen as the best possible match for our district. The superintendent will work with teachers and a committee of stakeholders to see how these might fit into math in elementary and middle school next year. Little libraries or pop-up libraries is an effort put forth by a local church, St. John on the Mountain, so children can have access to books year-round. SHSD's contribution to the little libraries is to have some students construct the housing in which the books would be stored. They are to be placed throughout the town so that children would have access to books at will. Lastly, field trips were approved previously by the administration and by this committee. Any questions?
Roll call? Oh, wait, I don't think I have a second, actually.
Sorry.
No second. Second.
I'd like to move items.
I need a motion first.
I'd like to move items 1 through 5 on the agenda and item 6 on the agenda.
Now it's Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Ms. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacomo.
Yes.
Mr. Nail.
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro.
Yes.
Mrs. Tober.
Yes.
Ms. Virtue. Ms. Birch.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee. Mrs. Lee.
Yes. Personnel policies. Okay, personnel and policy met on April 9th at 11:30. All committee members were there. Every month, we continue to monitor student demographics and staffing for the upcoming year at all levels. Dr. Dempsey is working with the principals of all 3 schools to identify staffing needs and to determine if there are ways in which staffing can be utilized across buildings as appropriate. And she will continue this, it's an ongoing process as we get more information on demographics and any retirements that may be done. Resumes for the STEM supervisor position have been reviewed and narrowed down by Dr. Dempsey, and she will assemble a committee to assist her with interviews. So I'm going to move agenda items 1 through 9 and addendum items 10 through 14.
Any discussions?
Roll call. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Mail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Ms. Birch? Mrs. Lee?
Yes.
Move on to policy. Policy met April 9th as well, and we began the meeting by reviewing all the discussions that have been taking place with regards to policy 7510, use of school facilities, and regulation 7511, use of athletic fields. So we took into consideration all the input we have received from various committees and the public at previous board meetings, and proceeded to make changes to that policy regulation. So I'm going to summarize the main content that we changed within that within policy. So we are going to increase the charge for custodians when not on site for school purposes to more accurately cover our costs. And this increase is going to go from $50 to $75 per hour. And that's Monday through Saturday, and from $75 to $100 an hour for Sunday and holidays. We are going to add the turf field to areas that are available for rent with a fee of $110 for 2 hours for the field and $75 for the lights, noting that the lights can be used September through November only. We recommend removing the weight room entirely from rental areas, so you will see that change reflected in the policy. And this was based on just a lot of safety concerns that we all had. And we would like to recommend application deadlines for organizations outside of the school to be able to submit applications for use of the turf fields at one time, so then we can take a look at all requests for the field and equitably assign field uses to all programs that are requested. We've added a deadline of February 1st for field rental from March 1st to August 31st, and August 1st for use between September 1st to February 28th. With regards to the regulation, we just cleaned up the language to better reflect practice with regards to cancellations and scheduling, again, based upon all the discussions that we've been having in many committee and public meetings. Moving on, we reviewed policy 6620, petty cash. The business office requested an increase in the amount from $200 to $300, and an increase in the maximum single expenditure from $25 to $30. Special services requested an increase in the amount from $100 to $150, and we recommend making these changes to this policy. Again, the field usage policy and regulation did take the bulk of our meeting, so we had to move our discussion of our various fundraising policies and sustainability to next month's meeting. So I would like to move agenda item number 1. Janice is second. Any discussion?
I have a question, Heather. In terms of the decision to charge the group fee organizations for the field and the lights, can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we decided that in order to kind of accommodate all of the things that we've talked about, being good community members and recognizing that the youth that use these fields are part of our school community as well, but then also taking into consideration the cost that comes along with utilizing turf fields and the expensive replacement costs that we will incur, we felt that charging a fee would be appropriate. Additionally, we didn't want to divert teens
from using the turf field that the town of Bernardsville has spent money to put in place, because they are charging, Bob, just correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's the same amount, or, yeah. So we wanted,
Bernardsville's charging $50, we're charging $55. We talked about 50 an hour in our meeting.
So I think Bernardsville is 55, so we're trying to make
Bernardsville's 55.
we're trying to make it equitable, because both fields were paid by taxpayers' dollars, and we don't want to play one field off the other. That's the main reason. We want to give use so people can decide which field they want to play at the same price.
and then we did do some research for other policies, and really everybody charges for their turf field. That's pretty much standard practice, and we looked at some of our neighboring school districts. So, we felt that this was kind of the best balance to bring everything together, to try and keep it equitable for the town, for students, for the school district, help cover some of the costs, although we do know that, a lot of that cost will be incurred by our own students' usage. So we recognize that as well. So that's kind of how we came to that determination.
Can I ask, and maybe there's no truth in this, but I thought I had heard when the turf was put in, that the school district was going to put money aside each year for the replacement cost.
I think you mentioned that. Has that taken place?
We have a capital reserve of over $1 million, which $300,000 to $400,000 would pay for a replacement of the turf field, let's say 5 years out. So we are keeping money there, because we put more money into that than we do looking at long-range projects. This is a long-range project, so all the monies and the revenues that we get that we can put into there, we will do that.
So is that money though earmarked specifically for that purpose, or could it really be used for any capital project that comes along?
Any capital project, because it's capital reserve. You can't take it out and put it in to pay for something else that's not capital. Once that money goes into capital, it's stuck there. Okay? So it's over $1 million right now. We moved some out to pay for these generators. Okay? So we want to be very careful that we keep enough money in there in case something really goes wrong with any school property. Okay? So we're being careful, and we try to keep it around $1 million. We've historically been shooting for that. I know years ago it got very low, and everybody got very concerned. It got down to about $300,000 or $400,000, and we've been slowly building that back up. Okay? So I think we're in great shape to take care of long-range projects for the next 10 years. So any of these fees that we're going to get, we will put some of these fees in also.
Respond to your concern. My suggestion when this field was being presented to us was still a dirt, hard gravel field where our children were actually hurt because it was so dangerous out there. My concern was that we wouldn't have to take a big chunk of money out of capital at that time. We've taken pretty good care of it, but I still believe at some point we need to just set up an account where we just put a little bit of money aside, $30,000 a year, so I can take it out of capital and put it and just set it aside so it doesn't hit us, because we still have some items in our strategic plan in terms of capital expenses that we really need to address. I don't want to go over them all right now, I think the time, but there's still a lot of issues that are going on, and I think the sooner we do set up this, the better. So.
We aren't able to set up a separate account, however, we can earmark it within the capital reserves. So we know that's something that is a priority, we can keep it on the top of the list as a priority, but I can't set up a separate account for this purpose.
I was told at that time that we could do that, so I would like to know what changed since that time.
I'll research it further
Okay.
when I'm done.
I asked our PA at the time very, very specifically, can we do this? And the answer that came back to me was, we absolutely can.
And I can tell you that if we cannot, we can certainly earmark it so that
that that's a priority and that it will take precedence over other projects.
Yeah, again, it's a matter of semantics, and money is money, and it all comes from the same place. I think it's just easier to set it aside, but.
I've got a couple of questions. Do we know right now how much rental income the district gets across the board from all rental facilities?
So when I put in the budget for the other, in the other category, a portion of that, so I have 178,000 is other revenues that come in. I'm going to say around 100,000 is part of that, but that's also the YMCA camp that we rent out to.
Right, okay.
Wasn't there a contract around 40,000?
Yes, there's a story.
I'm just, with respect to a fee on the field, it sounds like, Bob, what you were saying is we have more than an adequate reserve to fund repairs and improvements to the field. And given the prior comments about the funding of the athletic program, we've had numerous conversations on this board with respect to various fundraising mechanisms that have been used over time. I think it's important that, to the extent that fields are being rented to anyone, quite frankly, that we consider ring fencing the proceeds from that to be used for programs within the school district. And I think it's open to discussion as to what the breadth of those programs should be, but it should be viewed as incremental income to be used to reinvest in student programs, and whether they're athletic programs or other programs, we can discuss that. But I don't think that should just go into a general kitty. That's point one. Point two is, they're curious as to why we think we need to charge rental to that class of user that is really arguably members of our community anyway, right? So we're all starting with the football program. And I asked that in light of the prior comment from Bob that we have more than adequate monies reserved for repairs and improvements, so it can't be that. There was a comment made about the town and the town's fees. From my perspective and from, I think, this board's perspective, we should be indifferent to what they do. Our policy shouldn't be driven by any mistake or other policy initiative that they make. So I'm just curious as to what the thinking is as to why we need to charge community groups $110 or whatever it is for the field if you took the town off the table.
Other districts.
Yeah, go.
In other districts are charging.
Nicole, you're.
Oh, sorry. In other districts are charging similar programs for their field as well. So, I think that was part of our philosophy, our discussion.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, this conversation, which, is really prompted by a very specific incident, there's a backdrop to that, which is, budget pressures, right? And difficulties in various programs to add to the burden to the parents to pay for these various programs. So I don't think that a decision like this should not take that into account just because others are charging more for something. I don't think that's really it. I wouldn't use that as logic to defend a fee to charge for members of our community when they've already expressed concern that it's a difficult obligation to meet. So I would just think that would be considered in the context of that dialogue.
We have programs that aren't fully funded in our school.
I'm sorry?
You know that we have athletic programs that aren't fully funded in our school, right?
I do know that. I do know that, which is why I'm making.
I don't think that the financial obligations of outside programs is the responsibility of the school board.
I'm not suggesting it is, but I'm just curious as to, given what we know to be a constraint This is a new policy, right? This is not.
Well,
it's
we are
not cheap.
revising the policy, right? Because we looked
We're
at,
revising it to charge a fee.
right, we looked at the policy and all the charges that were on there for other items. The Polka field didn't have a charge, it wasn't even listed on there before. So in adding that, we did some research to see, well, what does everybody else do? What's the common practice? And I looked at Ridge's in detail, and you're welcome to look at that, but we came together to talk about these things and came up with this solution, looking at other towns. We're not trying to blaze a trail here, but, you know, we wanted our situation to be in line with what other school districts around us do. And we did have a meeting with the town, as you know, and Gretchen talked about that, and we talked about this at that meeting. And I don't think that our decisions here were based on what the town does, but it's all related, isn't it, really?
Well, I was just responding to Heather's comments, which it said that it was considered.
It was, yes.
It was considered, and that's all. And we don't, I mean, we've got a lot of people in the room, so we don't need to go too much deeper into it. Other than my final comment was with respect to the schedule. An August 1 application deadline for September 1 start to a sports program makes it very difficult for people who are leading a program to schedule and plan. I believe, the issue that prompted all this, it started by a group that came in the middle of November to plan for the forward year. So if a program is trying to secure access to a facility for the duration of their season, a short lead time like that precludes their ability probably to plan on using those fields. So I'm wondering how you took that into account, or whether you interacted with perhaps the football program or others.
We spoke with Mike Hockey,
Right.
who, with regards to when our schedule would be set, and, based on,
And we may have some give to moving back there. I mean, we were looking for the sweet spot, and I don't think anybody was completely married to it has to be August 1st. He certainly indicated to us that he would have his dates ready in advance of that, so that may be something that the group wants to go back and talk about.
Did we talk to the football program that was seeking access to?
well, I think we would have to talk to every program that could potentially be requesting
So that's a
field
no.
use. No, I did not specifically.
About these dates, no.
But one of the things we keep talking about is equitable distribution, so I'm not sure that we want to, we would have to, if we enter that discussion, we really need to speak to every potential group that would,
And we would know.
and we would know that. So I think we need, Mike indicated that, I don't know when the fields are going to be scheduled.
I just, without getting too hung up on the dates, the other thing I did want to point out is this was an attempt to say, okay, these are the advanced booking deadlines. This is not to say if you don't have it in by this date, you don't have access to it. It's trying to get to that point, I know Greg, you talked about this a little, where we say, okay, we've gotten these requests in, and now we're trying to equitably distribute usage.
Yeah,
With the understanding that if you come in after that and something is available, it is certainly available to you.
Yeah, and I'm really just trying to operate in the specific with respect to the case that prompted all this. And
But
I'm
I
just
think we have to
wondering,
be cautious to do that, because one of the big challenges that we had was that it granted the use of our field to one specific group, and there's a lot of competing groups out there that would probably like to have access.
and that's a great point, but if that competing group also needed 6 months of lead time to plan, I'm just wondering how we're providing that. It doesn't matter, I mean, if the deadline is so short.
I don't know why we need to, I don't understand why we need to go bend over backwards for one specific group. I mean, this is our policy, right? And it has to take everybody into consideration. I understand there was a situation that prompted all of this, but I don't think our policy needs to be tailored for one specific group and their needs.
Our policy needs to.
This crosses over to curriculum because my copy was there. We didn't just pick those dates out of the air. We asked him what would be reasonable.
But to your point, I do think that we have a little bit of give, and we can probably move them back a little bit.
Yeah, I think these were also aligned with other townships, but I don't, this is in, it's the first reading, we can certainly.
But we are the school board, and we do have a recreation department in this town, and our first and foremost responsibility is the children, students of our school. So we want to make sure they get first shot, first preference, first scheduling, and then it alleviates a whole lot of problems afterwards. Because if people say, well, we understand we could be bumped, well, that's really not a good answer, because why would anybody come up under those conditions to begin with? So our first priority is the school students of Somerset Hill School District, and that's what we try to do.
Dennis, and I understand that, and I appreciate it. And I do think we need to give the sports teams priority, without a doubt. But I think a lot of those participants in the Group B organizations are our students, right? So I do think we can't look and say, well, they're not ours, because they are for the most part.
Not all of them are, but also
There
was a meeting scheduled with the on there, and there were certain things that they came to agree on. We do have a field that was built for the town, for the recreation, that is available to them, and it's not like there's no other field to play on, so that's all I have to say on that.
Janice, just one quick comment. You said there's a meeting and there's things that were agreed upon. Can you elaborate on what was agreed upon in the meeting?
No, these things were not agreed upon at that meeting. We certainly discussed with the mayor and representatives from the borough council and the facilities manager the way their structure, they envision it looking, the way ideas we were thinking about. I don't know that there were any hard and fast, and Greg, you were there and Jamie was there.
Well, one of the things, I want to just jump in, but one of the things that we were certainly, we came out of that meeting understanding is that field fits every regulation that they measured it against. And there were like 4 or 5 different ones in the state of New Jersey sports. And they've gone back and done a lot of research to town council because we were questioning, is it safe? Is it this? Is it that? And so I came out of that meeting, it's like, oh, that field's actually fine. They don't like the snack shack and there's no lights. That's really what it's about.
The lack of the team that came before then to use this for the league sanction games, that the issues that there is before are no longer.
That's what the town council said at that meeting, yes. And so they have an issue with.
They have an issue.
They have other issues and their lights.
The league that they're in, I think, had a concern about the end zone distance. It's not for practice, it's for, the issues are with games, not for practice.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They can do whatever they want, but I think
But they addressed it.
with the pads on it, but I don't know if that addressed the policy that they're overriding.
It was also clear that they were in a process, and that we kind of had a conversation in the middle of that process as opposed to the ending.
So Tim is suggesting that we would commit our rules to outside parties.
Can you speak up?
Yeah, so it's asking Tim whether he's suggesting that the school board would allow for the committing of our fields to outside parties before the schedule is set for our teams?
No.
Okay, so
I didn't suggest anything.
well, but 6 months is probably not, you said if the football team, football league needs 6 months, we probably don't have our schedule done in 6 months. I think I heard.
No, I
think I heard that we would change the date to that date at which all our teams are committed to their dates and then we can make those available.
Yeah, I made no comment about committing in advance of our school's use, and the school's use trumps all use, so I made no comments to that.
I don't think anybody here is saying any outside organization should trump our own school functions, and nobody's saying that, but I have a couple of concerns. I'm not still comfortable with the fee structure. I know when this field was done, I would still like to hear from more people in the community. I'm a little concerned as to why we can't put these policies up on the website so community members can read them and digest them, and maybe we have more people that hear from the community and get more of their input, which I think would be helpful for our decisions. So I would like to see sometime this week or early next week that these policies go up on the website so that all the people in the community can read this and they can have their input at the next meeting. Specifically, I would like to see the where it says, and this is a proposed change, BHS Friday night football may operate outside of these hours. I would like to take the football out and allow other teams, other sports to use them. I don't want to restrict it just to football. I'd like to see boys and girls soccer play 1 or 2 night games out there if they choose to do that. I think it's exciting for them, it's exciting for the parents and the students in the school. I do agree with Gretchen. Those other dates, the deadlines can be changed. I know the high school schedules are done pretty much a year in advance, well in advance, so we know our high school schedule quite a ways out, so we can extend these. I'm not saying they need 6 months, but other programs outside of the school district certainly probably could use a little bit more time for those deadlines. But again, I would like to see these policies up on the website so that everybody in the community can see that. If they have concerns, if they want to voice concerns about should we charge, should we not charge, personally I'm torn.
Are you proposing that we place the policies in their draft form on the website?
I would like to see that so that people have access to reading them, and I don't know why people come here and they don't know what is in these policies that we're voting on. I think it would be helpful if they at least, we don't have to provide copies for everybody here in the audience, but certainly if it's on the website, they can print it off their own computers.
How, have we ever put a draft policy out on a website for review? No.
I'm curious, like, how you would, I guess you would, the limit of feedback time, I mean, that could be.
What's the difficulty in putting it on the website? I don't get it.
Well, we have to pass it at some point.
What's the protocol?
Yeah, I don't know if there is.
I mean, I think that would be a discussion for the board to decide if that's a comfortable approach that they want to take. I just don't know, at least in terms of my experience, that I have ever seen that done.
What would be a reason why we would not want to do it?
No, I'm just.
We don't want to be transparent, we don't want to get
It's got nothing,
information.
right.
What would be,
I don't
no,
think
not being
it-
serious.
I
What
don't
would be a
think-
reason why we wouldn't want to do it?
I'm just wondering if that's a common practice and have we ever done it? I don't think it has anything to do with being transparent because we've been discussing this for months at
Doesn't cost
public
any more money
meetings.
to put it
I
on.
always go to the Bernardsville Borough Council meeting agenda to see if I should go if something interests me, and they have been posting all their ordinances and drafts in a huge PDF document, so it is doable. It's doable. They've been doing it, they made the change about 2 years ago. And sometimes, it's helpful for me to see what the ordinance says. And I went to one last year and I complained about it and they made a change and I went back and I thanked them.
And that's fine. I just do want to be very clear that there's nothing not transparent.
I'm not suggesting that
Okay,
we're not being transparent. No, I'm just
I
saying.
did say that, and I just want to make sure because
So,
I'm happy to.
I asked what was the reasons, and I was throwing out possibilities, and I hope transparency is not, that we don't want to, I would hope that we want to be transparent, and Bob, I appreciate your comments, I think, because it costs anything, it's helpful.
I think if you do something, it should be consistent and not specifically about one house. I think that's-
So Greg, would you suggest that we post them after the first meeting?
Absolutely. Well, I would suggest prior to the first reading, we're posting something new, we're voting on it, and I think it should be posted without going over.
You know,
We're voting on a first reading.
we're voting on
You know, I could be off base on this, and if I am, just let me know. But think about this, if we took every committee that we wanted to change, say, the curriculum item, or any other item from any other facilities item, and then we went and put it on the website for people to, I mean, am I just way off base on this? Does this not coincide with what we're saying?
I don't know, I mean, these are policies.
Because there's a board, but there's a board here.
Yes, I don't know.
I think you touched upon, then my question would be, do we do this for every
Yeah, it can't be
policy?
just
Like,
this
you
issue.
can't
This
just
issue is
pick
just
one.
something that's right now.
There's no reason, this is 2019.
Okay.
There's no reason
Right, I'm
why
not
it's so
opposed, let
difficult.
me just be clear, I'm not opposed to this, I'm just trying to understand, it's not been our previous practice, and if we're suggesting to do it for one policy, Bob mentioned now that the council's doing it, maybe we need to discuss it in committee to see if that's something we want to do. I don't know how we handle this in this moment, but.
I think it gives the
This is a
public,
policy committee issue, right? This changes our,
I think it is helpful that people know, I go back to the random drug testing policy, I think, you know, we ended up, that was extended, we ended up having to go back and do it again. I think it's always helpful that the public can read and consume what they choose to. And this is something I think where people, when I go back to the beginning of this whole thing, and there were a lot of strong feelings and sentiments when this field was proposed. And I think people have a special interest in this thing. I don't want to differentiate between this and other policies. I think all the policies should be posted, but I think this particular policy, I think people donated money, they donated time, there was expectations, what those expectations were. You know, everything wasn't documented, so there's nothing hard and fast. I do know that some people believe that this field was paid for by the school board, and that is not the case. There are a lot of misconceptions. The part that was some of the engineering and of course the legal fees, but most of the money was raised by the community, and you know, I just think it's a healthy thing to put it all out there and let everybody see everything and digest it.
So I think we should, I'd like to make a motion that we take this, put this, I guess this topic of Grace discussing it back into policy and then to look into that and bring it back to the board at some later date.
Yeah.
So if we just table it for now and bring it back to policy.
Have a discussion about
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
because it's really,
I think it's
about
right.
Discussion about the published or table.
discussion.
So does that mean this policy will not appear on the website now? Is what you're suggesting?
I'm saying that what's going to happen is that they're going to take it back to the policy committee and they're going to discuss this issue. Should we put the policies on the website? And then they can come back to the board as a, you know, a motion to do it or not, if that's what they decide. But we're just going to, because at the end of the day, it's policy, and they have to come back and let us know if that's something they want to propose to do. Unless you want to, I mean, you could always make a motion too and talk to Jamie about it and ask the Gresham to put it on the agenda. You can do that as a board member.
I would have no problem with that if we table these policies that we're going to vote on tonight, table everything so that.
That's a different. It's just what I'm talking about is putting the policies out for public consumption prior to the board's first reading. That's what you're trying to say, is that correct?
Correct. I would like, if that's the case, if that's what we're going to do, then, and we're not going to put these policies we're voting on tonight up on the website, we're going to wait for policy to get back, the committee to get back to us, I would like to table these policies as well.
Well, you know, this is the first reading of some of them. If they're second, then the second ones, if we approve them, they will be out there. And these other ones are going to have to be, I think second is next month for the other ones.
Yeah.
So they will be out there too. The policy's out on the website.
We'll have to vote on that at the next meeting, and I think the timing is...
Want the public to come back with their,
Yeah, I think the timing is questionable. I think, in fairness, we just, if we're going to do that, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, I'm just saying if we're going to do that, then let's table these policies until, and let the first reading be next month after the policy recommends. So I just think we...
So my only question is if we table these policies tonight, which we can do as an option,
yeah.
and then we have to have a discussion in committee next month about putting policies out, bring that to the board. We're not going to be getting to these policies for several months, which is then, is that going to be a problem for the teams that want to use the field? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not reinventing the wheel here. If the board is going to vote on this, whatever the recommendation is from the policy committee, if the policy committee votes to put these up on the website,
Can we do that in
we're
one meeting?
going to have to vote on it anyway. It's not, policy doesn't,
I'll make a motion to vote on putting it on the website.
okay. And I'll second that motion.
Wait a second.
Because we can
have
vote on
a
this
motion
tonight.
out- We have a
All right.
motion currently.
Yeah, one vote.
We have a motion out that we need to vote on first, which is that the policy committee is going to review whether the policies get put up on the website.
Actually, I don't think that motion is pending yet, because I don't think it was, I don't recall hearing it be seconded.
Jan second.
Jan just made this one. That's the only motion that's been made right now. You're
That's
correct.
the motion.
All right, so wait, so right now, there is a motion, I didn't hear the second. I'm
I
sorry.
second.
Jan seconded.
I second.
No, that's a different motion. All right, so
I
there's,
can actually withdraw it.
Who's up
Okay.
right now?
if
That's
every,
what I'm going
if
to say.
the,
We
if the
have one
mover
motion.
and the recommend, and the seconder are okay with withdrawing it.
Yeah, I'll withdraw it, we'll withdraw it.
Okay, so
That
now,
motion is right.
so now, I gather there's a second motion, which is a motion to
Publish
publish
pending policies. All the pending policies.
all pending policies. And is that, was it specific as the time prior to the first reading or between the first and second reading?
It's a private first.
I think it should be prior to the
Prior to the
first.
first
We're
reading.
gonna-
So that, I just want to know what your motion is.
Right, at the same time, it's circulated to the remaining to the board members outside.
Okay.
Okay.
So now there's a motion, was it, and there was a second on that motion?
I second.
That's,
Who's seconding? Greg? All right. So let me be clear on what the motion is. We're tabling.
nobody said that
We're not
yet.
doing it.
Okay. Tell me what the motion is then. I'm sorry.
That we're going to publish pending policies at the same time as they're distributed to the full board.
Or at least prior to the first reading.
At least prior to the first reading.
I don't know that you should publish them at the same time you're
Prior to the first.
distributed. The board should get to see them first.
So motion to publish pending drafts policies prior to the first reading. What's that? Greg seconded. All right, yep, I got Greg seconded. Any further discussion?
On that motion
On
only.
just that motion, right?
Okay, so the motion is, there any discussion?
So then, what happens to this, does this first reading then?
You're gonna have to talk about that after you, that's gonna be separate.
Okay,
So we can
Peter,
discuss.
are you in favor or opposed to the concept of?
Well, we can, we can discuss this now, right?
Yes.
Because we're in discussion.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is every single policy that we get, we want to put it up as soon, the board will get it at a week, well, we get out the week before.
Yeah, you get with the board packet.
Which is a week before.
Correct.
And then we're gonna put it on the website,
Probably at the same time that we put the agenda up.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just thinking, because I just hate the fact that we're doing it like that without thinking things through. You know, it's always the implementation, which, we get caught in. So, we put that out, and then we have, so that will be added to, I guess, the first, people can comment on every single policy at the first reading. Okay. I know there's some other stuff out there that I haven't gotten, and I just don't feel comfortable, but that just me.
As Bob has mentioned, I have found it very helpful that the town council has done that, because then you can come to the meeting prepared to speak about the meetings.
So basically, we're giving a written copy,
Of the draft.
of the draft to people, and then they will come to that public meeting if they're interested to make a comment, having seen it in writing, and then we will vote on
the first reading.
On the first reading.
And we'll have input from the public on, that would be an actionable item. People would be able to speak at that early and late, whatever they want.
Which they currently can do, but now they just.
But now they see it, now they know what it is, now
Right.
they're educated and informed when they come to the meeting, if they choose to do that. Most policies, you're not going to get many people, you may not get many people to ask themselves, but it's just, my other question is every single policy that we have on our website?
It has, I believe we have critical policies up there. What I can't speak to, and I don't know, Jen, if you have background, is what defined the policies as critical? How were they deemed?
Why would not every policy be on the website?
And that's what
is my
Jen and I
question.
will kind of just.
Because I've looked at that, I've heard from
Yeah.
people, the question is, why are some policies, we seem to have taken some down,
We can easily do.
and I don't think that should be the case.
We can easily do that.
I would like to see everything up on the website.
Just say one thing, that there are some policies that are required by state code for various reasons that I make sure are up there. Things that are required because of state mandated training, HID policies, things like that are required. So those are the ones that are up there. There are some that
But
are
to your
additional.
point, I think if
Every
the goal
single
is.
policy
Yes.
should be up there. We
Yes,
should
and
be
then, then you would also have the ability, we try our hardest when we put these drafts out to either, put the changes in red or in bold or strike through, but, people are doing that under a time crunch. People would have an ability to compare it to the policy that was, on record at that.
Yeah, I think that people would feel that would be beneficial for it.
Now, I have another question. So let's say we go to the first reading, second reading, and you put the policy out on second reading, and somebody goes up and they read the policy, they can come back at some point in time, or they cannot. When would they, let's say you see a policy that you have questions about, like, okay, we're doing something, and when can somebody in the public at that point in time talk to us about the policy? I'm just trying to figure out, if we went to the second, and now we published it, we put it out there, okay?
Is it finished, we voted for
We
it?
finished, we put it out there, and now somebody goes out there and say, oh, because, policies are policies, and they can change, right? So, and like some of the policies are living documents, we have to change because certain things happen. So, when could they discuss them? When would that be? That would be at the end of this, they can bring it up at a board meeting at the end.
Right.
And then we can take it back into policy at that point in time and discuss that item.
Sure.
Okay, that's just my thought. Just one.
Any other discussion on that before we?
Yeah, and then we got to vote.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts?
We're voting on Jan's motion. Right now.
Yes, do you want me to read the motion again?
It's a motion to publish pending drafts of the policies prior to the first reading.
I don't want to complicate things. Gretchen, I'm trusting you'll put all the rest of these on. Or do you have to put that in motion?
No.
Okay, thank you.
That will happen. Okay, so on this one, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino,
Yes.
Mr. Mayo,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro,
Yes.
Mrs. Tober,
Yes.
Ms. Virtue,
Yes.
Ms. Birch,
No.
Mrs. Lees.
Yes. Okay, now I have a question.
Right, well, now the original motion is still pending. I believe a motion was made to approve the policy items as written. So right now, that motion is currently pending
I have one question.
for first reading.
So on that vote, are all three of them linked?
Yeah, that's the question.
Is that-
Well,
The
three
when you vote?
Right now, right now they were. I think they were moved as an item.
Okay,
Yes.
I just know much of the discussion centered around a policy and a regulations, and petty cash is kind of out there. So,
Well,
Still
actually,
in discussion mode on this, on the second one. My question would be to council, or to Gretchen or to Jamie, what's the downside if we table this particular motion until next month? The first reading of this.
Could possibly, if, for example, and I'm not familiar with what the items are, but if one or two of the items were things that you felt needed to be done tonight, someone could move to technically not table, but postpone the other items until the next meeting. But leave that one on. In other words, if something needs to be done tonight, you can do it tonight and postpone the other ones. It's up to you.
Do a petty cash tonight. And I guess my only other answer, Greg, to your question is that from a standpoint of the new school year, we have a May meeting and a June meeting. So in a perfect world, my hope would be that the board would come to consensus around a first reading next time and a second reading in June, just for a standpoint of starting the year and with some clarification.
So we're in August.
So can we postpone this?
Can we
first reading?
move it?
Except for maybe the petty cash thing.
Yeah, we should be pretty petty.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we table 7510, 7511, and that we approve 6620.
Okay, so what you're really doing is moving to postpone until the next meeting, 7510 and 7511. Just leave it at that right now. So is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, now you can discuss whether to table, if you want, you don't have to discuss, but you can discuss whether to table those two items or not. Or you can just vote on it, and then those two items are tabled to the next meeting.
That's fine. So does this adversely affect any of the people who want to reserve the field?
Does that really affect
I think
They have to vote right now. They have to vote for it.
No, I mean, I think the policy change,
No, they have to use the first policy. It's in
we're
place.
proposing a policy change that needs to be read twice. And that it doesn't preclude the use of the fields under the current policy. The only thing we're trying to do here is change said policy and assess fees. So there's nothing that changes access to our facilities under the extent of the policy that we have today. So no, the answer is no.
Old Town Field was never in the policy.
Exactly, it was not in the fee.
So it can't be reserved.
Nope.
It can't be reserved, or it can't be assessed a fee.
It is not on the list of sites that cannot be preserved.
It's not a list of sites that it's not on the, it's being added to a list for fees, and it is being carved out for a fee for a specific class of users. That's the policy change. So no, I don't think it limits any access to the facility for the upcoming school year.
I agree with, until the policy changes, the policy that's out there is in effect, and that site is not listed under the list of explicitly stated sites that are not available. So I agree with you.
That's also voted on today. Yes. So no cannot.
But the motion that's pending right now is a motion to table, or technically it's a motion to postpone till the next meeting, the first reading of policy 7510 and policy 70 and regulation 7511. That's what's pending right now.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, just to be clear, I didn't catch all that right. So the existing policy will remain in effect, and that means that the Alcott field may be reserved.
Because it is
Right.
not explicitly
Yes, okay.
listed as a site that is not available.
You said it cannot be reserved.
It can be. It's not included, Monica, there's a list of places that we can say, these are not available for rent. It is not included in that list.
That's not
So
in that
because it's not included in that list, that by default would mean it is available.
Okay.
So if it's reserved tomorrow, and then this policy is put for use in September and October, and this policy gets put in place in June, do they get charged a fee?
Well, have we scheduled our fields yet for our
I will say this, we did vote last month to rescind permission. So we did vote and everybody, there was a majority vote on that. So now, if somebody wants to use the field, they have to come to administration for permission. So I would think for right now, for the next month, this is a case-by-case basis that.
And right now, people who are requesting to use the field in this moment, right, this week, next week, they're going through the process as they did before with the clarification that the school due approval process that used to stop at the high school is now going up through Heather's office, which means it's being reviewed a little bit differently. The hope, again, from my end would be to have a clear policy passed by the board before the end of the school year so that we can move forward clearly.
It's a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, I think we need to commit to getting that done.
So are we telling people now that they have an expectation that they might have a fee?
It's up, I mean, it's up, I guess it's up to you. Right? I mean, if they reserve it and they want to use it now we
Well,
know.
no, if they want to use it after we put this policy in place.
Well, I do think it said in our policy before that it could be rescinded for a good reason, which is why we voted to do that. So that's already in there.
If somebody, I think your fee is based on whatever policy is in effect at the point in time that the field is used.
It is.
Okay.
Not at the point in time where you reserve it. That's just right.
Managing expectations.
I think it's at the time you reserve it, right? The fee is at that point in time when you reserve it.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not at the time you use, it's actually at time it's reserved.
Excessive fee.
You can't accept, yeah, if they reserve it now, you can't go back and make the changes. If I order something online,
I'd like to
so
just
if I
make
can
one
change my
comment
won't
here.
get
As I'm listening to this entire conversation, I'm just thinking a few thoughts about our government and how it's run. And, don't laugh at this, because this is important and it's serious. Because people elect representatives, correct? And so representatives are supposed to set policy, do all the things they're supposed to do, pass things, not pass things, based pretty much on what the people want. And then you can get voted out of office. But while people are in office, they do their job as they see fit. And it's great to get input, and I think that's wonderful. Ultimately, it's this board that takes everything into consideration and then votes. So that's, I really wanted to stress that point. Because going back to my earlier point about should we put everything, we changed curriculum. Should we then put, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just throwing this out. Should we then put that on so we can get input from everybody? I mean, it gets to be all, will anything ever get accomplished then? I really just wanted to put that out there because I do think it's important.
I'll just say you don't have to vote to table these two items. It's still up in the air as to whether to table them. You don't have to vote to table them. Prior to the policies won't be approved tonight though until the second reading. So you have now passed a resolution tonight that, as I understand it, will require that the policies be published in a sense prior to the second reading, prior to the next meeting. So it's up to the board whether they.
So for clarity, if we leave it on and vote on it as first reading, you put it on the website, people can look at it, they can come to the next meeting, say what they want to say if they want to, and then we can vote on it the next meeting.
That's correct.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
right? Or we can table it next week, that's what happens, because you need to.
I think everybody should vote on what they, yeah. I want to call vote.
All right. So the vote right now is still the motion that Greg did to postpone those two items and approve 6620. Just so
No, not approve 6620. That's separate. That has to be separate. He did sort of say that,
He
but.
did put it together,
No,
yes.
but
Okay,
right
so
now, the motion is to postpone those two
7510
items.
And regulation 7511. Right, and I guess we're just considering that we're in a holding pattern mode where it's all up in the air.
We're talking about 1 month. I respect Janice's
Well, no, I
her
was
feelings on it. I just feel like, I think if we feel that it's important enough to let the people see this, I think we need to hear from the people. I think we need to be open. I know it's a representative government, we vote, but we vote after we get input from people as well. And I think this is important. I don't think it's the end of the world that we wait 1 month before the first reading. I would like to see
What
that.
makes the fields more important than any other thing that we do?
That's my one consideration is we've had to move policy committee items now, or policy agenda items a couple months. So I guess my thinking is if we're going to put this on as the draft that we've created tonight, it won't necessarily be an agenda item in policy next month. We're going to, right? Am I assuming that? Well, do we have to adapt this again based on?
Yeah, the motion right now is to postpone those two items to the next board meeting. So they would then appear on the next board meeting's agenda as policy.
No, and that's fine, but I'm just saying, in our committee meeting, like, we've had to move our fundraising policy discussion, our sustainability.
So we wouldn't necessarily have anything to discuss
That's
in the
correct.
committee pertaining to this policy and this regulation, because
You already had
the
that.
draft could be posted, and we would be waiting to receive public comments on it.
Right, and that's just what I wanted, because we've spent a lot of time on this policy for several months now in committee, and I think there's a lot of priorities we need to get back to, but I would like to see us get back to in policy.
Well, again, I don't think you'd have to discuss this, we're just.
Yeah.
Just wait.
Yeah.
At least I'd like to call for a vote and discussion.
In discussion?
I would like to make a motion to end discussion.
Well, unless if there's no further discussion, you can just go ahead and do it.
All right. Mr. Baker?
No.
Ms. Cooper?
No.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
Yes.
Mr. Nail?
No.
Mr. McDonald?
Just to be clear, we're voting on tabling,
Those two items, that's
Postponing
correct.
those two items, yes.
we're voting on postponing the two items.
So the next board meeting.
Okay. Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
No.
Mrs. Tober? No. Ms. Virtue?
No.
Ms. Birch?
No.
Mrs. Lees? No. So I have 8 noes and 2 yeses.
Okay, so that motion fails. So now the original motion to approve the 3 matters in the policy agenda for first reading is now before the board again.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. DiGiacchino?
No.
Mr. Nail?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Now,
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
No.
Ms. Virtue?
Yes.
Ms. Birch?
Yes.
Mrs. Lees? Yes. Okay, this motion passes. Community relations.
All right, the Community Relations Committee met on April 11th for about an hour and a half. We had all our board members in attendance along with Dr. Dempsey and Mrs. Butler. The first topic we discussed surrounded updates from Colleen Butler on Future Ready School Initiative as well as Science to Students. In terms of the Future Ready School Initiative, Colleen Butler recommended that since this program really emphasizes technology and technology resources associated with the Future Ready School initiative. She recommended that we hold off moving any further until the STEM supervisor is hired, and the committee was in full agreement with this recommendation. Colleen then spoke to us about the Science to Students program, which is an effort to look at opportunities in the areas of STEM. A program that they have in place is called ISAAC, and that stands for Improving Student Affinity and Aptitude for Careers in STEM, which is available both to middle school and high school students. In short, the program affords students the opportunity to conduct experiments side by side with a professional scientist in a real-world laboratory setting, allows them to get hands-on experience while reducing the intimidation, and also exposes them to various careers in the STEM field. There is a $500,000 cost associated with this program, which can either be for 48 middle school students or 32 high school students. The committee had a big dialogue around this. Our biggest concern was the cost, and we tried to brainstorm around possible external funding options. But in the end, we agreed that this was something really, again, that the STEM supervisor should be involved in, so we're going to table it until that person is hired. Our second topic surrounded the Little Library Initiative, which Janice spoke with, and again, the Somerset Hills School District is going to be involved with the construction of those boxes, and then they're going to hand over to St. John on the Mountain Church for painting those boxes, setting them up, and the implementation of the program. But I will get the word out, please, that book donations will be requested soon. So if you have any books that you would like to donate to this program, please keep them aside, and we'll provide more information on how you can get them to the program. The last topic we talked about surrounded the student learning experiences that we've been talking about. We did make 2 field trips to 2 different high schools. One was to the Bridgewater High School, where the group spoke with the program director of their internship program. It was noted that the program director is a full-time business certified instructor who teaches 2 classes, and then really oversees the internships with the full responsibility of finding placements for those students. To the group that went, this program really seemed to cater more towards the non-college bound students who were being paid for their internships. In contrast to that, we, on April 8th, visited the Northern Valley High School, which is in Demarest, to better understand their career pathways and SLE program. Administrators from their district spoke to us about the genesis of the program, how it started, and really their intent desire on wanting to connect academics with real-world experiences and making it authentic for the students. So in terms of the career pathway program that Northern Valley has, it's really organized according to what they call career clusters. Those career clusters include business, law, and government, fine, practical, and performing arts, human services, STEM, and STEM. When we were there, they really seemed to focus a great deal of their time around the STEM pathway, which is broken into 3 different clusters, if you will, biomedical and life sciences, IT and computer science, and then engineering. They also spoke about their capstone project, which is an opportunity for dual enrollment courses, allowing students to gain college credits for the classes that they take in high school. I think the group that attended really found it to be a very interesting experience to learn what Northern Valley has put into place. And we also learned that they did receive a $500,000 grant to supplement this program. We found that there was a lot of great takeaways from our visit that we're going to be discussing in the future. And we still have one more visit to make down to Galloway Township to Gateway Regional High School, and that's going to take place on May 30th. So stay tuned for more on that. And I don't have any motions to move forward. Any questions?
I have questions. Okay, so I'm Tabitha. So the Future Ready School initiative that you're referring to, is that in the curriculum phase? Does that have something to do with curriculum? Because I get confused sometimes with the Community Relations Committee, because you talk about a lot of stuff that I know should be in curriculum. Is it coming later to curriculum?
Yeah, well, I
don't
think, as we've said, the curriculum, the community relations really focus is to investigate partnership opportunities. And then once we evaluate these partnership opportunities, if we think that they're perhaps an option or have any viability for our district, we would then move them forward to
And you move them to curriculum. The curriculum
Right,
is
we're not
okay.
investigating, our
Right, and Monica, I think that's why you'll see that community relations doesn't put things forth to a vote, because the thought is that they are sort of doing a lot of legwork for the district, and then anything that they sort of vet and think there would be benefit to would then go to the appropriate.
Okay, and you're gonna let us know, there's gonna be some kind of document that this is how this is gonna happen? I'm just wondering. And also you mentioned a STEM coordinator. Now, did I miss the vote on that? Did we have,
I'm sorry, say that.
a STEM coordinator? You said when we get the
No,
STEM
I said
coordinator?
when we hired the
In terms of
STEM
Grant
supervisor.
Palmer's position?
Oh, grants, will we change in that position?
No, that's his title.
Oh, STEM coordinator, really?
Science, technology, and
It's engineering and math?
no, it's,
He was called STEM coordinator.
he is not called coordinator, he is called supervisor.
Oh, he was called STEM supervisor.
He is STEM, science,
It's
technology.
It's right, it's technically math, science, and technology.
Okay, so what's the science, technology, engineering, math? Because I remember that. I would know that if that was the case. That would be in my brain and embedded, and I would have known he was a STEM coordinator.
Well,
I'm just saying, that would have been in it.
right, not coordinator, supervisor. The areas of expertise that Grant leads are mathematics, science, certainly technology, and we could say, is engineering in his title? It might not be. However, has he been integral to the work that we've done in engineering around Project Lead the Way? Yes, he has. Does he technically supervise our teachers who teach design and tech and all those things? Yes, he does.
But I know he did other stuff, because he did like, I thought he did the testing.
He's not testing.
He did a lot of other stuff too. Yeah, I know
Those are in
that.
his job description, but those are not necessarily in his title.
Okay, so I'm just saying is that it's a STEM coordinator position that we're talking about, which is supervisor, which is this
It's
position
the
that's.
same, it is the position that Grant Palmer currently
And we're gonna
occupies.
change it to.
We're not changing it.
Okay. We're just gonna call it that, but not change it. I'm just wondering, because you mentioned STEM coordinator, I just didn't remember that position, and not just tell me what it is.
It is the job that Grant Palmer
Which is good to
currently
know.
has.
Yeah, because I didn't know what we were talking about. I was confused.
So now we will move on to supplementary matters for the board discussion.
Yeah, just a reminder, our student representative from the high school, the intergenerational prom is next Friday evening. But try to be more specific, she said it was coming up, it is next Friday evening, begins at 6. Everybody is welcome and encouraged to attend. If you could just stay for a little bit, stay a little time, whatever you want to say, it would be wonderful. It's a great experience to watch kids interact with the senior citizens. It's a beautiful thing, and it's worth coming. Even if you can only stay a little bit. The food is great.
Okay. As the board president indicated at the beginning of the meeting, Ms. Gutierrez is, I believe, on a cruise ship somewhere in the Caribbean right now. So I was asked to read a statement this evening to attempt to clarify some items that have been circulating for the last couple of months. So I'm going to do that. The Somerset Hills Board of Education has been negotiating in good faith with the Somerset Hills Education Association for over a year. We have exchanged numerous proposals and counter-proposals and reached an impasse. Our groups then met twice with a mediator, but our efforts at reaching a resolution with his assistance were unsuccessful. At the last mediation session on February 11, 2019, we made an offer to the association. That offer included a salary increase, a small change in how tuition reimbursement is processed, with no actual change to the tuition reimbursement benefit available to staff, and no other changes to the existing agreement. This offer did not require or suggest any changes in health insurance benefits in order to reach a settlement. The SHEA left the mediation without a response or a counterproposal, opting instead to wait for fact-finding, which isn't scheduled to start until May 16. We want to make one thing very clear. At this point, the board is not asking SHEA members to reduce their level of benefits, not even a little. The board's proposal allows members to continue the same level of benefits they have received in the past. In the interest of full disclosure, earlier in the process, we suggested reducing payments that the board makes to those members who waive district-sponsored insurance coverage because they can obtain coverage elsewhere, for example, from a working spouse that can provide coverage through the spouse's employer. There are approximately 70 individuals who receive this waiver of insurance payment. The remaining 180 plus members of the association are either not eligible for the waiver or opt to take the board-sponsored coverage. The savings from this change could have enabled the board to provide greater salary increases to all SHEA members, despite the benefit to the entire unit, admittedly at the expense of some. SHEA rejected that proposal. At another point in the process, we suggested containing healthcare costs by changing various co-pays. SHEA rejected that approach as well. As a result, we took both proposals off the table and concentrated only on salary increases. We did so with the understanding from both sides that it would affect the overall amount of money the board has available for salary increases. We are very hopeful that in fact-finding, we will be able to reach an agreement for this contract. The board respects all of the members of the SHEA, all of its teachers, and wants to reach an agreement that is fair and equitable to all of its constituents, and one that is also sustainable for the district.
Any other supplementary matters? Bob, did you want to mention the electronics?
Sure. On Saturday, we're collecting electronics in the high school parking lot. This is our 7th year doing it. You can get free trees, you can get a well test kit, and you can get plants from monarch butterflies. So you do 4 things all in one. I don't care. Just come.
Yeah, I just got one comment. The letter from Pam Meyer, I haven't been aware as a board member that we've been approached to provide supplemental funding for the garden at Bedwell. Have we been approached as a board to provide funding that we've not supported? Because I'm just reading the tone of the letter, informed by some discussions, is very negative, and I'm just curious as to, have we been approached to provide supplemental funding, or has anyone been approached? Has anyone solicited supplemental funding for the garden at Bedwell that's been turned down?
I know that Alice Struble has been at board meetings talking about the importance of the garden and the hope that it is something that is valued and cherished. Certainly there have been conversations external to board interface around how we best ensure that the garden has a life and a viability that is guaranteed, I guess, into the future. There was a conversation in a committee meeting, and Bob, you may remember when that was, when we talked about, I want to say it was back in the fall even, about,
I felt like we had parents that were at board meetings talking about
People are concerned about
how to
do it.
make sure that it.
Nobody said we need X dollars. I just wanted to figure out a way to make it.
Well, I have had conversations with people internal to the organization about how best to ensure that in the long term. And quite frankly, there is, if that were to be pursued as a stipend kind of thing, that then comes back to the aspect of a contract. And I think the board could decide to enact that at any point in time, to say, yes, we're going to do this, but then there's the funding piece of it. So there have been conversations for sure.
Yeah, I just, I for one, have, remained very supportive of that argument and what we're doing there as an educational value. I don't, however, like to be receiving a letter or phone calls. It's based on misinformation and mischaracterization about requests being made to the board from any party. So to the extent that there's requests that are being made that are being denied, we should definitely be informed of it. And if there's misinformation being provided by others involved with respect to this board's engagement in this particular issue, I think we should get that corrected.
I'm not aware of any specific request for a specific stipend or amount of money or description of exactly.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone
And we
else
should be as supportive as possible. It's a great educational value.
Any other supplementary matters for the board? No? Okay, seeing none. We'll close that and open up public questions and comments on any item whatsoever.
Good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Jeff Falzerano. I'm a resident of PPAC, a teacher here at the high school, English teacher at the high school, and also a coach in many capacities, particularly the head baseball coach. And my plea is really in regards to facilities and field maintenance and usage. I think one of the things that isn't always considered is that lower field down below where the baseball program plays. And practices. And quite often what happens when there's spill out from the use of Olcott, that field down below gets overused to a point of it being unplayable. And I'm not afraid to say that. We've had a number of instances where we've had to play state playoff games at neutral sites when they should be at home sites over the course of my tenure here, which to me is unfair to our program and unfair to our seniors particularly. We've had the Pee Wee program down there, the football program pushed down there because of the issues with our turf fields in our community, which has completely abused the outfield area out there. Track and field runs their throwing events out there, and the outfield fence is brought down for that, which affects our practice opportunities. And I just feel that we deserve a little bit better. I believe that in a school like this, and what we provide educationally for our kids and athletically for our kids, that we deserve better. There is no place for the baseball program to go when that field is unplayable. We go inside to a gym. No other sports program has that issue here. Everyone else has another place, or they have a turf field that can withstand the weather. That field cannot. I beg of you, because I'm certain that many of you, if not all, have never even walked down there. I beg of you to walk it, particularly a day or two after it rains, and see what it's like. It's embarrassing. We played 2 games this past week where we had to actually put cones in foul territory, but in play, cones around puddles, and deem that area out of play during a game. We've had a number of times where we couldn't practice, and our boys deserve better than that. Our school district deserves better than that. So I implore you that if you're going to push people off of Olcott, please don't push them down there. If you do so, think about putting in a new drainage system, digging that up, and fixing it, because it really needs a lot of work. Thank you.
I'm Lynn Weltler, president of SHE. There are two things that I wanted to talk about. First, Mr. DiGiacchino, thank you very much for that request for the board putting all of the policies on the website. It allows for transparent communication, which is vital to trust between parties, public as well as the association and board. And I wanted to address something that Mr. McDonald said. Yes, indeed, I can tell that the people that are in charge of the garden have made the request to the Board of Ed to support that financially. I know of at least two members that are in this audience right now who made a video presentation with that request, at least at one meeting. So yes, they have made the request prior to your receiving letters for financial support. Their garden has been funded through grants.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm not aware of any funding requests, but maybe we can refer to it somewhere.
Okay, I thought
I've been very supportive of the garden, as you know, and the pond, as you know. And I've been receipt of the grants, as you know, so I've been very attuned to it. So I think I would be aware of funding.
I think this might have been the year before you came on board that a video presentation was made, but I do know that it has been made in the past. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Angus Miller from Bedminster. My prior point is being resolved by my daughter, so however, just listening to what's going on here, and I want to thank the Board of Ed for, it is a kind of thankless task sometimes for the work you do. I sit on quite a few boards on a volunteer basis, and I appreciate the work you put into it. So, but in just looking at the budget that you, and I have a question for the Treasury. You have a fiduciary responsibility to manage the assets of this school district in the most prudent and efficient manner. And I think I found some extra money for you that can go to the teachers, quite frankly. My question really is to the Treasurer is regarding your investment policy statement, regarding your cash management policy with regard to the current balances that you keep in your current bank accounts. By my calculations and current interest rates on the 2018-19 budget, which is available on the website, it notes that you've allocated $1,500 for interest earned on the Maintenance Reserve Fund, the Capital Reserve Fund, and other funds. Current interest rates right now are about 2.25% on money markets. And it just doing some basic calculations on average balances, I reckon you could probably generate anywhere from $60,000 to $200,000 in interest income by managing your funds a bit more prudently. Thank you.
17-year-old Berners High student that I'm going to bring up here. There's a garden because of kids like this. There's a garden because I've hustled my butt off for the last decade, building 34 raised beds. If you want to know about the garden, the person you need to ask is me, because without me, there is no garden. And then without myself, and then getting other teachers on board, and then the great parents that I have to help me, that's why this garden. And you know that. And you know the people. I know some of the people that called you. Her father originally helped me get a grant from Lowe's a decade ago to build some of the original beds that we have out there. We have been doing this garden, and we have followed all the chains of command. I've gone to my local administration. We have asked, we presented to this Board of Education saying the garden needs to be funded. The garden cannot run on the backs of the people volunteering year after year after year. The amount of workload that goes into that garden is incredible. When I come in over this summer to harvest those vegetables, Mrs. Virtue, that you take off the cart there, that you know that I put on that cart, you know that the amount of work that goes, I'm just saying, you take vegetables off that cart, don't you? I mean, yes. So you know the work that goes into it. That's something I do on my own. I am the one that decided to close down the garden this year. Because I said, part of it was due to protracted negotiations. I said, why am I going to volunteer my time so far and above and beyond? Listen, I still have kids come into my classroom every recess. But at the same time, Why am I going to go far beyond? We have asked our administration at the Bedwell School. I'm a little confused because I brought this to Mrs. Dempsey this past week, 2 weeks ago, and I said to her, I'm done volunteering my time. A lot of people, there are great teachers like this teacher here that's going to retire, and what she's going to leave behind are her memories. I am leaving something physically behind to the school. I want to make sure the mechanisms are in place that when I give and I retire, that the garden can still go. Because I've seen many other things started by teachers in this community, and when they retire, they go to dust. So unless the Board of Education buys into the garden and buys into putting a stipend in position for somebody to do it, I would still do what I do if there was a stipend. Not for myself, for somebody else to do what I do. And a dollar amount, a couple $1,000s in the line item to support it, because I can't keep going year after year getting grant to get this. If that was done, I would do what I do in that garden. It's up to the Board of Education to buy into this. This lovely teacher here is going to leave memories. I'm trying to leave something physically behind this garden. It's up to you that when I leave, is it going to become a wasteland of weeds? Because that's what it's going to turn into right now. Thank you.
Jim, I think your passion is appreciated, and your commitment to the garden is clear, right? And there's a process for making a request, and you just effectively made one. If we put some numbers around it, I think we can address it. I think you'll find this board to be very responsive to the programs across the school district, but with a particular focus on the activities that you are personally involved in at Bedwell. So I think we take that as a sort of the first round of an appeal, and then maybe we put some numbers around it, give something to react to. But I would encourage people not to be making statements about the board's lack of support for something when no request has been made. Okay, this board is supportive.
Okay, you could gavel me down if you'd like. We've asked the board when we did the presentation to come and see the garden. Unfortunately, you know that many of you have never stepped foot in that garden. I mean, there's some new board members, that's one. You know, I've been a union man for many years. I don't come and just up to the board and ask like this. We go through the chain of command, and we've done that. I've sat with Grant and different administrators over the years. We've had committee meetings where we said we need to support the garden, we need to get funding for the garden. There's been letters written in this, so everything that you're asking has been done. The problem is that it may not have never made it to the board level, but we have done what we were supposed to do through the proper chains of command to try to get funding for the garden. And with that being said, I mean, there you go. You now know about that. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Martha Berg. I'm a parent. I have two students in the high school. I'm a little bit shocked about the lack of non-teacher residents at this meeting tonight. I also came to speak on another topic, but after hearing everything that's going on, similar to Mr. Miller, there's one thing that's just critical, and it's the number of red shirts in this room has to be resolved. I'm going to catch a 5:30 train tomorrow morning. I work in New York City. I live here for the public schools. So everything we're talking about, gardens, budgets, etc., the core of that is the importance of the contract that these teachers have. And, you know, employees that don't feel appreciated aren't going to do as well a job. It's going to snowball. You're tearing at the fabric, I think, of what is the base of this entire district. So it's really important to me, and if there are ways I can help, I'd like to, but I just wanted to voice that view and thank all the teachers in the room for being here so late. It's really an important point. Thanks.
New Jersey. I'm sure you can't hear me. Just a few things. I wanted to actually thank everybody in the room, people that have been here, teachers, board, parents that are here for the first time. Thank you, and I hope that everybody will talk to one another and more people will be here next time. I quickly wanted to say the proposal to post things on the website policies prior to them being voted upon is critical. I come to these meetings every month, and a lot of the times I'm sitting here and I have no idea what's going on. and it would be extraordinarily helpful. I know you guys meet in committee, and this is when you all get together, and I think for the sake of everybody understanding and being able to speak and voice their, opinions, information as, the members of this community and whose students are in the schools, I think that would be critically important. I know it would be extraordinarily helpful to me. I also wanted to say that this isn't a funding issue, but regarding the garden, the kids, forgetting all else, the kids are obsessed with it, and the kids look to dedicate their time during their recess, and the kids look forward to the time they get to spend out there for different curricular opportunities. So I just wanted to put that out there. But lastly, it was noted that Victor is going to be retiring. And I don't know if everyone knows, but every year we have a custodian appreciation dinner for the entire district, for all the custodians in the district. This year it is going to be on May 29th at 4 p.m. in the Bedwell Library. And I would like to invite you all to attend to pay appropriate respect to Victor and all of our custodians. So just wanted to make special mention of that. Thank you.
Drop the mic.
Hi, my name is Meredith Panic, and I'm a parent in the district. I'm also the school psychologist at Bedwell, and I do a lot of work in helping Jim with the garden. And I have to say that I'm a little disappointed in what I'm hearing tonight about the lack of knowledge about the funding that we've been requesting. He and I stood up here a couple years ago requesting funding to erect the greenhouse that's laying in a box in the field there right now in the garden. And it's just disappointing that it's just laying there. It was a grant, it was something that was given to us by a parent in the district. And it just blows my mind that you're saying that you haven't heard about that. I stood up here and talked about it with him, and I don't like to stand up here and talk about anything with you guys. So it was a big deal for me. So it just blows my mind that you guys are saying that you didn't hear about it. I stood up here, it's on video, we talked about it. We need money to erect that at a minimum. We need help. It's a lot of work. We stagger our summer vacations around this for the garden in order to be able to weed and harvest and water. It is a ton of work. So I urge you to please come and visit it, and please think about supporting us in terms of funding.
It says nothing.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment. I didn't want to make it earlier when our middle school representative came in. The production dates for Cinderella Kids are actually Thursday and Friday, not Friday and Saturday, so I didn't want you to miss it. And it was so great to listen to her speak about it. There are 45 5th and 6th graders involved. There are 18 7th, 8th graders who are directorial helpers. There are 2 high school students who come down and spend their time. When we talk about a village, this is a village. They give of their time. They are wonderful. I know that a board member's daughter was on the music board today, on the mixer, and I know another HSA president's son was finding the curtains for me. He goes, I put everything away, Mrs. Weltler. I know where everything is. And, you know, they just bring joy. And the performance is about 40 minutes long. It's the best 40 minutes you will spend to see these 45 kids singing and dancing in unison. And I really urge you all to come out and see the joy on their faces as they present their fruits of their labor. So next Thursday and Friday, I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Hi, Lou Palmer from Blackstone. I too want to thank you for putting the policies on the attached to the agenda, because I came to read the policies. I saw the facility use and the athletic fields, not knowing what that was. The only way that I could see it is to come and read the binders here. If it was part of the agenda that's online on Monday, I may or may not have questions and I won't come to the meeting, or if I see that there is a question, I would come, like I did have on this policy. What I'd like to do, I know you had the first reading, I would hope that you'd reconsider the facility used for that all-top field. That field was mostly donated by taxpayers of the community, with the thought that people would be using that, anyone in the district would be using that. We're not rich to charge 2 hours for $110 to an organization that's part of our community. If they use it 10 times a year, that's $1,100. This is not a money maker for the district. And what that's going to be is a pass on to the organization for their entrance fees or their fees to be part of that organization. So if you've got 25 kids, that's an extra $44 to play. That may be a discouragement to some kids to play. If it's part of the overall tax burden of the district, I think that's well worth it to make sure that kids get to play in the youth organizations in our community. So I would hope that you would reconsider that charge for the athletic field. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second, that's all right.
I noticed that Jen Schoffer's name's on the list, and I just want to wish you luck in what you're doing in the next endeavor. So thank you for your time.
I'll make a motion to adjourn again.
I just wanted to ask, Mr. Miller, you had a comment about bathroom facilities. Did you want to mention that? You sure?
It's resolved.
Oh, wow.
His daughter, I think.
Great.
She's on the student council, so she...
I talked to Dr. Knight about it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that wasn't forgotten. Any other comments, questions?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Wait. Oh, we have another one? Okay.
We actually will.
Okay, so I'm not sure if Kendall talked about this at the beginning about what's going on at BHS, but there are many bathrooms locked in our school due to vandalism and vaping and juuling, and it's affecting the students who do not do these activities, and it's affecting them greatly because it's more concentrated. The bathrooms that are locked, it forces other students to go into bathrooms that are more concentrated with more students, which makes kids late for class. And it's actually taking a big toll. And I think if there could be anything done to help this, I don't know what could be done to help the vandalism, because when people are more concentrated in one bathroom, you're more likely, I'm not saying one person is more likely, but there is more people who are more likely to be with friends and, rough around in the bathrooms. More boys' bathrooms are locked than girls' bathrooms.
And I just want to add, from personal experience, that a lot of times it isn't really the best option to go to the bathroom during class, because you're missing class time and missing important instruction time, especially with AP classes. It's really hard to miss that instruction, regardless of any class. It's not good to miss instruction, and so we're encouraged to go in between class periods. But when there's so many kids trying to use one bathroom, it's like a line, and then you're late for a class. And I have so many tardies in classes, which have actually added up to absences because of waiting in line at a bathroom, which just then I have to go talk and try and get them resolved. And it's really not fair to the students who do care about their academics and are trying to get to class on time. And even in class, if you ask to use the bathroom in the freshman hallway, for example, you have to walk all the way upstairs and come all the way back down, which is, like a 10-minute trip. And so classes are
Are
only
these,
40
can I
minutes.
just ask you guys a question? Are these bathrooms that have been locked for, is it every day it's a different bathroom? Or is it something that is consistently locked for a period of time?
There is one bathroom that is locked in the morning until 10 a.m. and then it's open all lunch periods and then it's closed again. But they're in the B200 wing, both the freshman hallway, they are locked. And sometimes they just don't explain, sometimes they'll have a sign on the door, but sometimes they won't. So you won't know.
So you don't really know until you get there?
You don't know until you get there, so you just don't, you can't plan accordingly. But like the final point is, it's just, I'm taking 4 APs and I have enough stress in my life and going to the bathroom is just.
I don't think anybody here would disagree with you, nor would we ever want to have you learn in an environment where the thought process around going to the bathroom becomes overly complicated. You don't deserve that. So I will certainly talk to Dr. Nigel and Dr. Corbett and see, what can be done. I know that you mentioned boys' bathrooms seem to be locked more than girls' bathrooms. From a standpoint of the school environment, we are fortunate to have Mr. Burns, the SLEO in the building, and I know that he visits the boys' bathrooms. So I guess I would have almost predicted that you would have said the opposite, because I always worry that I don't have a woman to go into those girls' bathrooms and check the same thing. So let's see if we can put our heads together and figure something out. I don't know.
And we have a written packet that we can give to if you'd like reference.
I would love reference.
Jamie, question. We had talked about in finance additional cameras last year. What's the status with those additional cameras to address that? My understanding was that was going to address that issue, and we put those cameras up. And
Yes, we have put additional.
is there plans for more
The
cameras?
cameras are not obviously in bathrooms. I just mean that is, a factor. Typically, it is not unusual to want to put a camera outside of the bathroom. It gives you evidence of who went in, how long they were in there, who came out. But, and at the middle school, I know that has helped with this problem, but it would seem from the information that these women provided us that there's still a problem that they are dealing with on a daily basis.
Do we have a sufficient number of cameras in the
We have
proper
cameras that
areas?
we bought this year, and we have additional cameras that were budgeted for next year.
Because
So-
I speak from experience. I've spent 8 years as being a student, and I've followed cameras, and I've looked at that. I can't tell you the hours I've spent in bomb scares and everything else, where I've been in the building till 9 o'clock at night, and then come back in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and continue to look one camera to the next. And I know the more cameras you have, you can't put them in the bathrooms, of course, but you can follow
That is
movements of
something that
kids
was
after
part
things
of our
happen.
strategic plan, something that we budgeted for this existing year, that we have put in place, and something that we are continuing to grow next year.
It's on. Sam on the BB Livestone. In regards to the camera comment, I think that's not the answer. You really need physical people sitting out in the hallways in the middle school and the high school. I mean, my son has told me he's walked into the bathroom and he sees someone bathing and he looks it out. He goes back and tells the teacher, and by that time I'm sure the student's gone. I think having a physical person sitting there as a hall monitor, and I don't know how.
The middle school definitely does that. It's a matter of, staff members' schedules, contractual responsibilities in terms of pupil contact time, who's available at what points of the day. So, I know Mr. Latsky works hard to leverage everybody's contribution toward that. But I understand where you're coming from in the sense that we don't have the personnel necessarily to have someone outside of every bathroom for every period.
Right, and that's something maybe that has to come up in future budget conversations. Hiring people just as an aid who that might be their responsibility. I don't know, I know that's.
big, but it seems to be an issue that these students have to spend 10 minutes going to the bathroom. That sounds ridiculous.
And I don't think any of us would disagree that that part's ridiculous, and the aspect of just when you're in the bathroom, I mean, you want to relax, you don't want to worry about what things that are going on that maybe make you feel uncomfortable.
Hi, I'm Alice Struble, and I just want to give some more examples of requests for garden support. Going to rewind, I want to say it was the first time I came to a Board of Ed meeting. It may have been December of last year when I talked about numbers for our garden club growing and how much the Bedwell garden rocks. And the kids love it, and numbers for the garden club grew from 16 students in its inception to over 50 kids were there on Tuesday. And after Bedwell was designated a Green Ribbon School in 2013, I believe information was given to a committee regarding how other schools in the state who have gardens actually manage them. And I want to say one of the schools that we looked into was the Jackson School District, and maybe Heather Santoro can shed some more light on that, because I know Dinah and Jen, who were the Green Team chairs when we received that national designation, shared some information regarding how schools with gardens need not only financial support, but personnel to support and manage the children who basically make the garden the wonderful place that it is. Then in January, Mrs. Phelan called a meeting with the outgoing STEM coordinator, Grant Colmer, and all of the team leaders at Bedwell shared how they utilize the garden as part of their curriculum, from writing to poetry to calculating weather. And that information was freely shared with Grant, but I'm not sure how it escalates or gets to the committees where it needs to be decided on, where you ultimately support it. So again, I am so fortunate that we have that resource. I'm so fortunate to hear stories from high schoolers who say, during Earth Week, they are doing different green team activities and how they remember how great the green team and the Bedwell Garden was, and we want to keep that going. We won't have a cart with vegetables on it this summer to bring in income because there's no vegetables growing. So I'm nervous. Next year I have a 4th grader to last year. We're not selling any cucumbers and tomatoes on the cart. So thank you to Dr. Panic and thank you to Mr. Mack for building the garden into what it is. This summer a new greenhouse is going in, and we're not like the Bedwell
Excuse me,
farm.
ma'am. I paused the clock. You've got about 30 seconds to go. Nope, you're gonna have to stop.
Can I say something before anyone else comes up? Rex, I think this has your fingerprints on it. Whoever, I'm going to assume you are partially responsible for these microphones. And I think it was a much more effective meeting, so thank you. I appreciate all of this.
Does it work down?
Make a motion again to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?